You wake up, brush, rinse, and still something feels off. That faint, sour taste after breakfast. The gums that bleed just a little too easily. The tooth that aches when you sip something cold. It's normal, you tell yourself. That's what mouthwash is for, to kill the germs clear, the breath protect what toothpaste might miss. For years, that sharp burn felt like proof it worked. A quick sip, a sting, and the soreness fades. But that comfort may have come at a quiet cost. Because behind that cool mint and bright label, some mouthwashes do more than clean. They strip away the good bacteria your mouth depends on. They dry the tissue dull, your sense of taste, even make gums more prone to irritation and decay. And since nearly every bathroom counter holds one, it's time we face what's really swirling in those bottles. 5 mouthwash brands that quietly betray our trust. And 2 that still deserve it. Via Peridex, Periogard. It sits on the bathroom shelf, like a promise, a small brown bottle with a white cap prescribed to calm swollen gums and stop the bleeding that once made you afraid to smile. A measured rinse in the morning and again before bed, and the pain begins to fade. But healing when stretched too long can start to turn on itself. That's the quiet truth behind this antiseptic that was never meant for everyday life. At first, Peridex or Periogard delivers exactly what you hope for: fewer swollen spots, less soreness, when brushing, a clean taste that feels professional. Yet, chlorhexidine doesn't distinguish between the bad bacteria that cause infection and the good ones that help your mouth stay balanced. It wipes the entire landscape clean, leaving the surface sterile but also vulnerable. With months of daily use, the first sign of trouble is visual. Teeth that once gleamed white begin to dull, turning faintly yellow, then brown, especially along the gum line or around dental work. No amount of brushing seems to lift it. The stain is not dirt. It is chemical residue bonding to enamel, a reminder of overuse written in color. Soon after, the flavor of food changes. Coffee tastes muted. Fruit feels less sweet. Some users describe it as a metallic shadow that lingers no matter what they eat. That's chlorhexadine's secondary effect, altering the way the tongue perceives taste. For older adults who already experience reduced taste sensitivity, that shift can dull appetite and enjoyment altogether. Then comes dryness. The mouth that once felt clean begins to feel stripped. Saliva, which naturally protects enamel and flushes away food particles, decreases. Lips crack more easily. Corners of the mouth sting. Some even notice their gums becoming tender again, as though the rinse had come full circle relief, giving way to irritation. Dentists often prescribe these rinses for short bursts, 1 or 2 weeks during recovery from surgery or infection, not for indefinite use. But over time, convenience replaces caution. The bottle sits within reach, and the sting feels like reassurance. What begins as medicine becomes habit, and habit becomes dependency. The mouth adapts to an antiseptic world, and that world ironically invites new problems: increased plaque formation once the rinse stops, lingering discoloration, and an imbalance of the very bacteria that maintain gum health. Some people even develop subtle burning sensations or small patches of peeling tissue after long exposure. The medical term is mucosal irritation. In plain words, the rinse that healed the wound can start creating its own. None of this makes chlorhexidine evil. It remains an effective treatment in moderation under professional care. But the danger lies in the silence between appointments when the prescription outlives its purpose. The mouth is not a battlefield to be sterilized every night. It is a living ecosystem that thrives on balance, not eradication. One woman described it simply: "I trusted what the dentist gave me until my smile started looking darker and my meals tasted the same, like nothing." Her story is not rare. It's what happens when strong medicine becomes part of daily routine. Healing isn't meant to leave a mark. When it does, that's not care, that's corrosion disguised as comfort. And if even a medical rinse, guided by doctors and meant to protect us, can wear the mouth down with time, imagine what an alcohol bath from the store shelf might do. We've all been there, standing at the sink, half-awake, bottle in hand. The sharp scent hits first, then the burn. It's almost automatic. A few seconds of sting, a swirl of spit, and that's it. Morning complete. But behind that familiar heat hides a story we rarely tell. Listerine's signature burn comes from alcohol, nearly 1/4 of every bottle. It doesn't just kill bacteria. It scorches everything in its path, good and bad alike. For older users, that means dry gums, cracked lips, and a tongue that feels tired after each rinse. The mouth becomes sterile, but not healthy, stripped of the saliva and protective flora it depends on to stay balanced. At first you think it's working. The freshness lasts, the mirror gleams, and your breath feels light. But hours later, the mouth tightens. Food tastes duller, coffee sharper. Your throat aches a little. Then the pattern repeats. You rinse again and again, chasing the same fleeting comfort that's quietly causing the discomfort. Dentists have long known the trade-off alcohol-heavy mouthwash dries. Soft tissue weakens enamel, and when used daily, can even invite the same bacteria it once removed. However, for decades, the burn was marketed as proof of power. Families passed that belief down like a toothbrush. If it burns, it's working, we were told. Online, the realization is spreading. I used it for years, one man wrote on a dental forum. My dentist said my gums looked older than they should. Another added I thought the sting meant clean. Turns out it was my mouth screaming for water. Their stories echo thousands more people who trusted that golden promise only to learn the comfort was built on misunderstanding. For many, the shock isn't chemical, it's emotional. Because Listerine isn't just a product, it's memory. It's the smell of Sunday mornings, the cool burn before work, the sign that you were taking care of yourself. When something that familiar turns out to be flawed, it feels personal, like realizing an old friend never really knew you. And still, it's hard to stop. The ritual feels right. The mint covers the truth. Yet the body remembers dry morning, sensitive gums, that faint metallic taste that refuses to fade. Each symptom whispers the same quiet truth: this isn't health. It's overcorrection. Modern research confirms it. Alcohol-based rinses, especially at this strength, can cause long-term tissue stress and imbalance. The mouth, constantly stripped, loses its natural defense. It becomes dependent on what harms it, a cycle both physical and emotional. We all took pride in that sting. We believed the burn was proof of care. But pain was never the measure of purity. It was the price of forgetting what gentle really feels like. So tonight, before you swirl that familiar gold again, pause for a moment, look at the bottle, think of how many mornings you've started with that same ache, and ask yourself, if it truly made us healthy, why does the comfort fade so fast? The hardest part of letting go isn't missing the burn. It's realizing how long it's been burning you back. 3. Crest Pro Health. Crest Pro Health. Scope Advanced. The names alone sound reassuring, modern, sterile, safe. They promise innovation you can pour. For decades, these bottles have lined bathroom shelves like quiet trophies of scientific care. We trust them because they speak the language of progress: pro-advanced. Clinical, words that sound unshakable. But inside the bottle, precision often drifts into overreach. The active compound is cetylpyridinium chloride, or CPC, a chemical the dental world has long described as both efficient and adhesive. It kills bacteria by breaking down their outer membranes. That's the good part. The problem comes after. CPC doesn't simply rinse away, it lingers. It sticks to everything it touches: enamel, saliva, proteins, even the tiny taste buds on your tongue. Dr. Lori Bamonte, restorative care specialist with the American Dental Association, explains it simply: CPC is powerful, but it's clingy. It keeps working even when the mouth is already clean. That cling turns into a coating. Over time, that invisible film becomes a magnet for pigments from food, wine, tea, and coffee. The result isn't shine, it's shade. A slow, quiet discoloration that catches you off guard one morning when you smile under bright light. Patients often think it's plaque or diet. They scrub harder, buy whitening toothpaste, drink less coffee. But the stain doesn't lift. We see it constantly, says Dr. Daniel Wu, periodontist at the Mayo Clinic. The brown along the gum line isn't lifestyle. It's the mouthwash itself bonding to the tooth surface. And staining isn't the only surprise. Because CPC interacts with proteins responsible for flavor transmission, many long-term users experience taste distortion. Sweetness turns flat, bitterness sharpens, and water leaves a faint metallic trace. Meals feel muted. The mouth feels oddly fatigued, as though freshness has been replaced with function. The irony is, CPC genuinely works. Dentists use it for short bursts to reduce bacteria after surgery or manage gingivitis flare-ups. It's not a bad ingredient, it's a misplaced one. The trouble starts when a week's therapy becomes a year-long routine. The compound accumulates, layering itself into the very tissue it was meant to protect. The balance between cleanliness and natural resilience tips the wrong way. Older mouths feel it first. With less saliva and thinner enamel, the side effects compound: faster dryness sensitivity, even dull patches along the tongue. The rinse meant to symbolize care ends up aging the smile it promised to preserve. After all, the branding never falters. Clinically proven, dentist approved, enamel safe. The tone is confident, the font sterile, the smile on the label bright. None of it untrue, just incomplete. Because science without restraint stops being medicine and becomes repetition. CPC doesn't have intent, it has momentum. It keeps cleaning until there's nothing left to clean. That's the paradox of progress, a chemistry that wins every battle but forgets the body it's meant to protect. Dr. Beaumonte summarizes it quietly. Our mouths are living systems, not laboratories. Even the best science needs a pause. So if your advanced rinse leaves faint brown lines at the edges of your teeth or a metallic aftertaste that never quite fades, don't blame yourself or your coffee. What you're feeling isn't failure, it's friction. A gentle warning that too much precision can erase the natural rhythm your mouth depends on. Because when science forgets balance, it stops serving us and starts staining us. And from here, the story only deepens. The next chapter isn't about chemicals that cling, but colors that conceal mouthwashes designed to sparkle brighter, smell sweeter, and hide their wear with flavor. She picked it off the shelf because it looked clean. The liquid glowed like turquoise glass, cool and bright under the pharmacy lights. The label said, Scope Outlast. Mint burst, 12-hour freshness, alcohol-free. Everything about it looked gentle, safe. The kind of product you'd leave by the sink without a second thought. For the first week, she loved it. The flavor hit fast, sharp, sweet, perfectly balanced. The mirror fogged, the breath felt crisp, and the mouth tingled like it had just been rinsed in cold water. It became a ritual she looked forward to. Little did she know that beautiful blue wasn't freshness at all. It was fabrication. That shimmering color came from FD&C blue, Num1 and green Num6, the same synthetic dyes used in candies and sports drinks. They cost less than a nickel per liter to produce and give a $6 bottle its clean ocean tone. Natural mint oils could have done the same job, but at 20 times the cost and with no visual punch. For the manufacturer, the math was simple: color sells trust. Inside the factory, the process is as mechanical as it is psychological. In fragrance labs, technicians blend mint esters and cooling agents chemicals like methyl salicylate to mimic the sensory blast of real menthol. Then comes a drop of saccharin to leave a sweet trace that tricks the tongue into believing in purity. It's not meant to last. It's meant to linger just long enough for the next rinse. Dr. Elaine Porter, a sensory researcher at Johns Hopkins, calls it engineered confidence. She explains these products are designed to create a conditioned loop you feel fresh because your body associates sweetness and cold with safety. The effect wears off quickly, so you reach for it again. That loop is worth millions. Each batch of synthetic dye costs pennies, but every bottle built on that illusion earns hundreds of times more in profit. The longer customers chase that icy sweetness, the deeper the habit grows. It's a business model dressed as hygiene. After a month, the shine started to dull, not in the bottle but in her mouth. The mint felt harsher, the sweetness cloying. Her lips began to dry and coffee tasted oddly sour. That's the side the commercials never show: flavor esters and artificial coolants, dry soft tissue, and dull taste receptors over time. The sensation of freshness becomes harder to feel, so the customer pours more. The irony is that Scope's formula isn't unusual. Almost every color-rich rinse on the shelf follows the same blueprint: a dash of dye, a cloud of fragrance, a chemical chill, and a slogan that equates color with cleanliness. The more vibrant the hue, the simpler the psychology. If it shines, it must be safe. But under that brightness is an invisible cost. The dyes cling to enamel, the sweeteners feed surface bacteria, and the mouth's own ecosystem loses its rhythm. It's not a danger in a single rinse, it's erosion by habit. The kind that happens quietly in the name of convenience. One day she caught herself studying the bottle under the light. It was still beautiful, still blue, still whispering fresh. But now she could see the irony. The very thing that looked so pure had left her mouth feeling strangely artificial, like the flavor had outlasted the care. Scope calls it Outlast, and in a way it does. The color outlasts the truth, the taste outlasts the health, and the illusion, that bright, sweet illusion, outlasts every reason we started using it in the first place. Fünf Herr Badend. When did natural start needing a label to prove it? Walk through any pharmacy aisle and you'll see the same picture, repeated soft green packaging leaves curling across the label, words like herbal care and botanical protection. The design feels calm, trustworthy, almost handmade. It's an image built for the modern shopper who wants to stay healthy but still live conveniently. Herbadent plays that part perfectly. Marketed as an herbal mouthwash, it promises a blend of natural extracts, clove, chamomile, sage, and myrrh, all the comforting ingredients of an old world remedy. The label speaks softly of nature, but the liquid inside tells a different story. Behind that earthy color and pleasant scent lies a modern industrial formula. Herbadent, like many natural rinses, still relies on sodium benzoate and PEG 40 hydrogenated castor oil lab-made stabilizers that keep the liquid smooth and extend shelf life to nearly 2 years. Without them, a truly plant-based mouthwash would separate or spoil in a few weeks. The herbs may sound ancient, but the chemistry is all contemporary. This isn't unique to Herbadent, it's how the system works. A few drops of herbal extract give authenticity, but synthetic preservatives do the real heavy lifting. They prevent mold, hold color, and maintain fragrance. Natural ingredients simply can't survive the logistics of modern retail. So companies re-engineer nature into something shelf-stable and shippable. The formula becomes a compromise between health and marketing, a liquid designed to look alive but carefully preserved not to be. For consumers, the illusion is powerful. The mild aroma, the soft tint, and the word herbal trigger comfort before we even taste it. It feels gentle, harmless, especially compared to the sharp burn of alcohol-based rinses. But over long use, many find the same quiet issues creeping in: dryness, dull taste, a faint tightness in the gums. These are signs of over-preserved formulas. Nothing extreme, just a mouth slowly adjusting to a product that cleans by control, not by care. You don't need a chemistry degree to see the pattern. When a brand sells the feeling of nature in a bottle that lasts 2 years, there's something missing. Real herbs wilt. Real oils separate. Real mint fades. Nature was never meant to sit on a shelf that long. The irony is most people who buy Herbadent or similar rinses do it out of good intention. They want to avoid alcohol, choose gentler care, and feel more in control of what goes into their bodies. The marketing uses that sincerity well, but being careful shouldn't mean being fooled. So before you believe the leaf on the label, take a second look at the fine print. If you see ingredients like sodium benzoate, PEG 40, or polysorbate, that natural rinse isn't as pure as it looks. It isn't dangerous, it's just honest chemistry wrapped in poetic language. And maybe that's the lesson here: herbal isn't a guarantee, it's an impression. If you truly want something natural, go for small batch rinses or simple at-home alternatives: salt water, diluted aloe, or essential oils mixed safely under guidance. They don't last forever, and that's the point. Real things aren't supposed to. In the end, brands like Herbadent don't sell herbs. They sell the comfort of believing in them. And that's where awareness matters most. That's the hard truth about the so-called herbal revolution. It's built more on design than on nature. And after seeing how easily color chemistry and now eco-labels can be bent for profit, it's fair to ask what's left to trust. The answer isn't despair, it's awareness. Because not every bottle hides behind illusion. There are still brands that keep their formulas simple, transparent, and close to what mouthwash was meant to be: protection, not performance. The kind you can read without guessing and use without worry. Let's turn to the ones that still honor that promise. In a shelf filled with glowing blues and bright greens, one bottle almost disappears. No glitter, no burn, no promises of intense freshness. Just a pale liquid that looks like water. That's TheraBreath, a mouthwash built not on drama, but on trust. Created by dentist Dr. Harold Katz in the 1990s, TheraBreath was designed for patients who couldn't tolerate alcohol-based rinses. Instead of relying on that familiar sting, it uses stabilized chlorine dioxide, an oxygen-based compound that neutralizes volatile sulfur, compounds the real cause of bad breath. In plain terms, it fixes the odor at its source, not by masking it with flavor or alcohol, but by disabling the bacteria's waste gases that create the smell in the first place. There's no fiery sensation, no artificial chill. At first, that can feel wrong, almost like nothing's happening. But that quietness is the point. A healthy mouth isn't supposed to hurt to feel clean. Unlike harsher rinses, TheraBreath doesn't strip away saliva or good bacteria. It works with the mouth, not against it, restoring balance instead of burning proof. Beyond the chemistry, what sets it apart is clarity. The label lists every ingredient in plain language, no hidden fragrance blends, no bright color agents, no saccharin sweeteners. Even the flavor mild mint comes from natural oil extracts instead of lab-made esters. It's the kind of product you can actually read without guessing. And for many older users dealing with dry mouth or sensitive gums, that transparency feels like relief. Dentists often recommend TheraBreath for those recovering from oral surgery or taking medications that reduce saliva production. The reason is simple: the formula is non-irritating, balanced in pH, and free of the alcohol that can worsen dryness. Instead of making the mouth feel sterile and tight, it keeps the environment hydrated and neutral. It's not a miracle cure, just a steady solution that actually respects how the mouth works. Consumer feedback reflects that quiet confidence. Many describe it as the first mouthwash that doesn't hurt. One reviewer wrote, "I stopped chasing the burn and finally found balance." Another said, "My breath feels fresh without that fake cold taste." It's not a trend, it's a return to common sense. The American Dental Association now recognizes TheraBreath as safe and effective for daily use, a quiet honor in a market that often celebrates volume over truth. But the real story here is trust. In an industry built on color and claims, TheraBreath chose the harder path to be clear, humble, and consistent. It doesn't promise miracles in a week or teeth that sparkle 10 times brighter. It just does its job quietly every day for those who value honesty more than hype. There's something reassuring about that. For many viewers in their 50s and 60s, it recalls a time when products earned trust by results, not advertising. You didn't need a chart or a celebrity, you just needed something that worked and didn't hurt. TheraBreath revives that memory with modern discipline. Maybe clean never needed to glow. Maybe it just needed the courage to be clear. And it isn't alone. Another brand has quietly followed the same path, proving that purity and comfort can coexist without the burn. Let's turn to that next. I don't often say this in a review, but this one's different. I'm genuinely a fan. Not because it's fancy or because it claims to be revolutionary. I like Hello Oral Care because it's the only mouthwash I've used that feels like it respects me back. There's no burn, no show, just a quiet, clean taste that feels right. The first time I tried it, I actually double-checked the bottle. No alcohol, no artificial dyes, no harsh scent trying to prove a point. Just simple ingredients that make sense: aloe vera, coconut oil, mint, xylitol, and fluoride, balanced, not exaggerated. The kind of formula that doesn't need to shout to feel effective. Behind each batch is a refreshingly honest process. Hello's products are made in the United States, cruelty-free and certified vegan. Every bottle is paraben-free, BPA-free, and recyclable. Even their shipping partners use carbon offset programs to balance emissions. You can tell the company treats clean as a responsibility, not an aesthetic. And what really earns my respect, they don't overcharge for it. A standard bottle costs around $6. It's not cheap in quality, but it's fair in price, a rare middle ground between the dollar store sting and the boutique organic markup. For many viewers in their 50s and 60s, that balance matters. It's proof that being ethical doesn't have to mean being expensive. The performance speaks quietly but clearly. I use it every morning after brushing one gentle swish, 10 seconds, and my mouth feels fresh all day. No dryness after coffee, no strange aftertaste that lingers, just a clean neutrality that feels natural. It's like my mouth found its own rhythm again. I've noticed something subtle too. Since switching, my gums feel calmer, less tender. Maybe it's the aloe. Maybe it's just not having to endure the daily burn of alcohol anymore. But there's a sense of balance that other brands forgot how to deliver. And while many companies lean on nostalgia or fear, Hello went the other way: transparency and design. The bottle looks modern but not loud. Matte white soft curves, clear text. The label doesn't hide behind proprietary blends or vague botanical freshness. Every ingredient is printed in plain language. You don't need a degree to understand what you're using. Their efforts didn't go unnoticed. Hello is ADA accepted, the American Dental Association seal for safety and effectiveness, and widely praised for its environmentally responsible production. Those aren't easy recognitions to earn. They're proof that the brand built its reputation the old-fashioned way, with real results and consistent integrity. And it's not just me. Online customers of all ages, parents, seniors, and even teens echo the same feeling. One review simply said, "It doesn't fight my mouth. It works with it." That line stayed with me. Because that's exactly what this product represents, a small act of balance in a world obsessed with extremes. When I look at the bottle on my counter, I realize it's not just mouthwash. It's a small daily reminder that good habits shouldn't hurt, and real quality shouldn't need convincing. It doesn't promise miracles, it just proves moderation still works. And maybe that's what makes it beautiful. It doesn't demand your faith, it earns it slowly, rinse by rinse. Because in a market that keeps shouting, real care still speaks in a whisper. Maybe the real freshness isn't what we rinse out, it's what we choose to keep. We've come a long way from burns and illusions to honesty and balance. And through it all, one truth stands: mouthwash was never the problem. The real issue lies in how we choose, in the temptation to equate the strongest sting with the best care, or the brightest bottle with the purest promise. We chase comfort, then fear missing out. And somewhere along the way, we forget to ask, does this truly serve my health? Every brand begins with intention to protect, to refresh, to help. But only a few stay true to that. So before picking the next bottle, pause for a moment, read the label. Trust your clarity more than the claims. Because the best mouthwash isn't the loudest or the latest. It's the one that keeps you honest, quietly, gently, every single day.